I was looking out of my screen door the other day when I saw a cat on my balcony. It was gray striped, with rusty orange patches, a white belly, and white feet like he was wearing boots. It had no collar, but looked well cared for and content. In fact, it looked quite comfortable. The cat was sitting like a person would sit. It had one leg crossed over the other, and when it saw me looking, it waved and smiled broadly. Its sharp teeth glinted in the sun. I had never seen a cat sit like that before, and I'd certainly never seen a cat wave at someone. It was highly unusual, to say the least. It looked surreal and unnatural. The dreamlike feeling intensified when I recalled that I lived on the 49th floor and didn't own a cat. I opened the screen door and stepped out into the cold, windy air. "Hello," the cat said with a Cheshire grin. His voice was that of an elderly British man. Hi. Deciding my mind had finally snapped like a dry twig after too many hours working at the factory, I decided not to quibble the fact that none of this made any sense. I was long overdue for a complete mental break after all. Despite the initial friendly greeting, the talking cat didn't seem particularly interested in conversation. He turned his head away, ignoring me, and looked back out over the skyline. "Enjoying the view?" I asked. "What's that?" He seemed distracted. "The view. Are you enjoying it?" I asked again, feeling foolish. "Oh, yes, I heard you. I just wondered if that was really what you wanted to ask. Kind of a silly question, isn't it? One usually asks the talking cat how and why he talks. But yes, if you insist on a response to your seemingly rhetorical question, yes, the view is very lovely." An uncomfortable silence followed, and I waited for an appropriate length of time before speaking again. It was awkward to ask the questions he just mocked me for not asking, so I didn't. "Why are you here, on my balcony?" I ventured, hoping this line of questioning would yield better results. "You have an absolutely lovely view up here," he said, as if that answered my question. "Wasn't there anyone of higher stature? No offense, of course, but how on earth did you get a place with a view like this?" "Well, I work hard, put in lots of hours, and the inside isn't really very nice. It's a bachelor pad with barely enough room for a bed. I have to share a bathroom and a kitchen down the hall with a bunch of total strangers who never clean up after themselves." "Fantastic view," he repeated, summarily ignoring me. "You are very fortunate to have a place like this." The silence started again, and I couldn't help but get the impression that the cat was utterly and completely bored by me, and on top of that, he acted like he was substantially better than me. Actually, that last part was no different from my interactions with any other cat, to be fair. I opened my mouth to speak again, and he made an irritated noise and glared daggers back at me. Without another word, he dropped down from the balcony railing and disappeared. I ran over and looked off the edge, thinking I would see him fall down to his furry death, but he was just gone. Shaking my head, I went back into my apartment and made myself dinner, a pack of ramen and a glass of water from the tap. Despite the small size of my apartment, the majority of my earnings went towards paying rent, so I had to save money wherever I could. I kept holding out hope that one day I would be promoted at the factory to line supervisor, since that was the only chance I had at making more than minimum wage. 2 days later, I was in the living room, and I saw him again from the corner of my eye. The cat was sitting on the balcony railing with his legs crossed. He bounced his foot up and down and swung his legs in the air happily. Then he saw me and smiled and waved. "You're back," I said, trying to sound friendly. "I'm back," he answered, trying not to sound as bored as he obviously was with me. I thought maybe I'd imagined you sitting there. Oh, you people, always so quick to say something didn't happen, that something isn't real. Well, you don't know everything. Feel these whiskers. Touch 'em. They're as real as you are, asshole. I reached my hand over and brushed my hand against his whiskers. He let me, then suddenly swiped at me with his claws out and hissed. Not the top ones. Those are sensitive. I pulled back my hand, watching his blood began to bead from the paper-thin scratches. He started licking his paw and washing himself, as if he needed to immediately cleanse himself from my touch. "Do you want to come inside?" I asked. I wanted more than anything to run my hand under some cold water at the kitchen sink, but it felt rude to leave him there immediately. "All right," he answered, following me in. His tail and his chin were held up in the air, and I noticed again how this cat had a very dignified air about him, like he was royalty of some sort. "That's exactly what I am, you know," he said. I was running cold water on my hand, and he was up on the kitchen counter now, staring at me. I hadn't seen him jump up there. He had just appeared. What are you, exactly?" "Royalty," he said pompously. "I am 23rd in the line of succession. I could very well be king of cats one day. You should be very happy to know me." "Ah," I said, "well, I suppose I am then. I'm very happy to know you. What is your name now? Sorry." "Victor McStuffins III at your service," he said. "Victor McStuffins." Of course, I looked at him looking at me, and the whole world felt like it was off its axis. King of Cats, Victor McStuffins, what the hell was going on? Had someone slipped acid in my coffee again? None of this made a lick of sense, but then he was there, and the intense pain throbbing in my hand from his tiny scratches told me he was indeed real. "All right, I'll buy it. So what brings you to my neck of the woods?" He thought about this for a while and then answered, "Well, if you absolutely must know, I'm sort of between places to live right now. I've got nowhere to be, and in turn, I'm roaming aimlessly. No, I've met you, and you certainly seem decent enough, but... Now, I have to ask, is that tuna fish I see over there?" My pantry door never closed properly, and he had somehow spotted the can with his sharp eyes. "It is. Are you hungry? I can put out a dish for you. You know, where I come from, one doesn't ask his guests these sorts of questions. He simply says, 'Come here, sit down, let me get things ready for you.' But you're asking me? Well then, yes, I suppose I should admit I am starving, and I could use a decent meal. I'll take the tuna fish if you're offering, and a saucer of milk while you're at it." He was setting himself up in the living room as he spoke. I should say it was also my bedroom, since the place was tiny. I served him tuna, and a saucer of milk as requested, but he did not leave. He stuck around and fell asleep on the table atop some very important papers. I felt too guilty to wake him up, so I just left him be. The next morning I went to work. As always, the day dragged on and my back, hands, and head ached from picking up boxes after a while, as they always did. I ate lunch alone and thought about the cat who was now asleep in my apartment. There was something off about him, and it wasn't just the fact that he could talk, but I couldn't put my finger on it. When I got home that evening, there was a smell in my apartment, coppery and organic like the butcher's shop. I walked in and found the cat sitting on top of a dead body in the living room, eating its face. The person, I realized, was my neighbor Bill. He'd always play his music too loud, and I'd never particularly liked him, but that was besides the point. "What did you do?" I asked the cat. "You killed my neighbor, and now you're eating his face?" The cat licked his lips and trotted away from the body. He sat a little ways away and cleaned his paws with his tongue, seemingly unconcerned. You're the one who killed him, he said. I just ate his face. Cats don't kill people. You did it before you went to work this morning. Don't you remember? I backed away from him, terrified. You're lying. I never killed anyone. You're a monster. The cat went over to the balcony door, which was now open. You know he had a key to your apartment, right? He was stealing from you. Didn't you notice? I did you a favor. He sauntered out onto the balcony and jumped onto the railing. He stood up on his back paws and waved, then dropped off the balcony, smiling. So now I'm left with a dead body on my living room floor and an increasingly noticeable smell which has begun to emanate from it. The odor has aroused suspicion of my neighbors, and they've begun to give me very strange looks in the hallway. Any day, the police will arrive at my door, I am quite sure. I suspect they won't believe the truth. I can hardly believe it myself. That damn talking cat ruined my life, as if it wasn't bad enough already. Hey, hello, this is the JabberWhack here, I guess, and this story was brought to you by an extremely talented author by the name of Jordan Groot. And if you would like to see more stories like this, then please check out the link in the description and go and buy his newest book. He's extremely talented, and well, channels like this can't exist without the writers who do all the work. So, thank you.